the night Jimi Hendrix played the national anthem like never before. Introduction and setup. The air hung thick and heavy over Max Yaska's dairy farm, a palpable blend of humidity, anticipation, and the lingering scent of damp earth. It was Monday morning, August 18, 1969, but for the 500,000 souls still sprawled across the fields of Bethel, New York, time had long since ceased to be a linear concept. Woodstock, the Aquarian Exposition, 3 days of peace and music, had stretched into a fourth, unplanned day, a testament to both its chaotic grandeur and the sheer, unyielding spirit of a generation. The sun, already climbing high, promised another sweltering day, but the energy, though diminished by exhaustion and the exodus of many, still pulsed with a strange, almost spiritual resonance. Jimi Hendrix, the undisputed wizard of the electric guitar, was scheduled to close the festival. His slot had been pushed back repeatedly, a victim of the logistical nightmare that had become Woodstock. Originally set for Sunday night, he wouldn't take the stage until 9 a.m. on Monday. Most of the crowd, a sea of humanity that had once stretched to the horizon, had begun to thin out. Tents were being struck, cars were being dug out of the mud, and the dream of a unified counterculture was slowly giving way to the harsh realities of traffic jams and impending work weeks. Yet, for those who remained, a dedicated, mud-caked core, the wait for Hendrix was a pilgrimage, a final, sacred act of devotion. Jimi himself was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. He'd arrived at the festival late, caught in the same gridlock that had ensnared thousands. The sheer scale of it all was overwhelming, even for a man who had already conquered stages across the globe. He'd seen the news reports, heard the whispers of a generation finding its voice, and felt the immense pressure of being its most articulate musical prophet. He was more than just a rock star. He was a symbol, a black man from Seattle who had redefined what a guitar could do, a psychedelic shaman whose music transcended race, class, and convention. But with that symbolism came a heavy burden. He was tired, profoundly so. The relentless touring, the constant demands, the weight of expectation, it all pressed down on him. His band, now billed as Jimi Hendrix and Gypsy Sun and Rainbows, was a new configuration, still finding its groove. Mitch Mitchell on drums, Billy Cox on bass, Larry Lee on rhythm guitar, and Juma Sultan and Jerry Velez on percussion. It was a larger, more experimental sound than his classic Experience trio, a reflection of Jimi's restless artistic spirit, always pushing boundaries, always seeking new sonic landscapes. As he waited backstage, the distant sounds of other bands faded, replaced by the murmur of the remaining crowd and the hum of the massive sound system. He looked out at the field, a vast expanse dotted with sleeping bags, discarded blankets, and the occasional plume of smoke. It wasn't the roaring, packed-to-the-gills audience he was used to, but there was an intimacy to it, a shared endurance that felt uniquely powerful. These were the true believers, the ones who had stayed, who had weathered the storms and the chaos, all for the promise of one last, transcendent musical experience. The cultural backdrop of 1969 was a volatile tapestry. The Vietnam War raged, tearing families apart and fueling a burgeoning anti-war movement. The civil rights movement, though having achieved significant legislative victories, still grappled with deep-seated racial inequality. Assassinations had rocked the nation, trust in institutions was eroding, and a generation was questioning everything. Music, particularly rock and roll, had become the soundtrack to this revolution, a vehicle for protest, a balm for anxiety, and a rallying cry for change. Jimi, with his incendiary guitar work and his often abstract lyrics, was at the forefront of this cultural shift. He didn't preach overtly, but his music spoke volumes, a language of freedom, rebellion, and raw, unbridled emotion. He adjusted the strap of his iconic white Fender Stratocaster, its worn finish a testament to countless hours of sonic exploration. The guitar felt like an extension of his own body, a conduit for the electricity that coursed through his veins. He closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath, trying to center himself amidst the swirling chaos of his mind and the world outside. He wasn't just playing a gig. He was about to make a statement, to offer a final, unforgettable benediction to a festival that had defied all expectations. He knew this performance had to be more than just a collection of songs. It had to be an experience, a reflection of the times, a moment that would resonate far beyond the muddy fields of Woodstock. As the stage manager gave the signal, a wave of adrenaline washed over him, momentarily eclipsing his fatigue. He walked towards the stage, his silhouette framed against the rising sun, a lone figure about to command the attention of thousands. The roar that greeted him, though smaller than anticipated, was no less fervent. It was a sound of relief, of triumph, of shared history. He gripped his guitar, a silent promise forming in his mind. He would give them everything he had. Before we dive deeper into the electrifying build-up to that legendary performance, if you're as captivated by these pivotal moments in music history as we are, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more stories that peel back the layers of rock and roll's most iconic figures and events. Jimi Hendrix stepped onto the stage, a vision in white fringe and blue velvet, his signature headband holding back his wild, dark hair. The crowd, though diminished, erupted in a roar that seemed to defy its size. It was 9 a.m. on a Monday, but for these dedicated souls, the party was far from over. Jimi, ever the showman, offered a wry smile, a silent acknowledgement of the shared absurdity and magic of the moment. "We'd like to thank you for showing up," he drawled, his voice a low rumble. "We've had a few technical problems, but we're going to try and get it together." His initial set was a masterclass in psychedelic rock. He launched into Message to Love, a powerful opener that immediately re-energized the weary audience. His guitar wailed, soared, and screamed, a living entity in his hands. He moved with a fluid grace, a dancer coaxing impossible sounds from wood and wire. The band, despite its newness, locked into a groove, providing a solid, pulsating foundation for Jimi's improvisational flights of fancy. Songs like Hear My Train A Comin' and Red House showcased his blues roots, while Voodoo Child, Slight Return, was a raw, untamed beast, a sonic journey into the heart of his genius. But beneath the dazzling display, Jimi's mind was a maelstrom. He felt the weight of the moment, the immense cultural significance of Woodstock, and his role as its final act. He wasn't just playing songs. He was channeling the collective consciousness of a generation. He looked out at the faces, some still dancing, some simply staring, mesmerized, and he saw a reflection of the nation's turmoil. The war, the protests, the yearning for peace and understanding. It all swirled within him, demanding an outlet, a voice. He knew he had to do something special, something that would encapsulate the spirit of Woodstock, something that would speak to the hopes and frustrations of the era. He had been experimenting with the Star-Spangled Banner for a while, incorporating snippets into his live shows, twisting its familiar melody into something new, something unsettling. But this was different. This was Woodstock. This was the world watching, or at least, the world that mattered to him. The idea had been brewing for days, a quiet insistence in the back of his mind. The national anthem, a symbol of patriotism, of unity, of a nation's pride. But what did that pride mean in 1969? For many, it was a hollow promise, a flag draped over a coffin, a song sung while bombs fell on distant lands. Jimi, a veteran himself, understood the complexities. He loved his country, but he also saw its flaws, its hypocrisies, its pain. He wasn't looking to disrespect the anthem. He was looking to reinterpret it, to infuse it with the raw, visceral truth of the times. He wanted to make it scream, to make it weep, to make it reflect the dissonance and the anguish that permeated the American experience. He glanced at Billy Cox, his childhood friend and bassist, a silent communication passing between them. Billy nodded, understanding the unspoken cue. Jimi had a way of leading, not with words, but with an almost telepathic musical intuition. He turned back to the microphone, his eyes scanning the crowd, a flicker of defiance in their depths. He knew this would be controversial. He knew some would call it sacrilege, but he also knew it was necessary. The band launched into Villanova Junction, a beautiful, almost mournful instrumental, a brief respite before the storm. As the final notes faded, a hush fell over the crowd, a collective breath held in anticipation. Jimi stepped forward, his white Stratocaster slung low. He looked at Mitch, then at Larry, a subtle nod. The air crackled with an unspoken tension. Then he began. Not with a flourish, not with a grand announcement, but with a single, sustained, feedback-laden note. It was the opening phrase of the Star-Spangled Banner, instantly recognizable, yet utterly transformed. It was a sound that seemed to tear through the fabric of the morning, a sonic declaration that would echo through history. The decision was made, the moment was here. He was about to play the national anthem like no one had ever dared before or since. This performance, this audacious act of musical redefinition, continues to spark debate and awe decades later. What are your thoughts on Hendrix's legacy, particularly his willingness to challenge conventions and use his art as a form of commentary? We'd love to hear your perspectives, so please leave a comment below and share your insights on the enduring impact of Jimi Hendrix. The first notes of the Star-Spangled Banner sliced through the morning air, instantly recognizable yet profoundly alien. Jimi didn't play it straight. He didn't even play it as a rock anthem. What emerged from his white Stratocaster was a deconstruction, a sonic tapestry woven with threads of patriotism, protest, and raw, unadulterated anguish. It was a sound that defied categorization, a visceral experience that transcended mere music. He began with the familiar melody, but it was distorted, stretched, and bent, as if viewed through a warped mirror. The whammy bar became his brush, painting broad strokes of sonic chaos. The feedback, usually an uncontrolled nuisance, was harnessed, manipulated, and transformed into an integral part of the narrative. It wasn't just noise. It was the sound of a nation tearing itself apart, the screech of metal, the wail of sirens, the distant rumble of war. Then came the iconic passage, the moment that would forever define the performance. The bombs bursting in air and rockets' red glare. Jimi didn't just play these lines, he recreated them. With a series of explosive, percussive strums, followed by a searing, sustained dive bomb on his whammy bar, he conjured the terrifying imagery of warfare. The guitar shrieked like a fighter jet, then exploded like ordnance, the sound reverberating through the massive sound system, washing over the stunned crowd. It was a sonic depiction of the Vietnam War, a brutal, unflinching commentary on the violence being perpetrated in America's name. His face was a mask of intense concentration, his eyes closed for moments, then snapping open, scanning the faces in the crowd. He wasn't performing for applause. He was performing out of necessity, out of a deep-seated need to express the inexpressible. His body swayed with the music, his fingers dancing across the fretboard with a superhuman dexterity. He wasn't just playing notes. He was channeling the collective consciousness of a generation, giving voice to their anger, their fear, their disillusionment. The crowd's reaction was a mixture of awe, confusion, and dawning comprehension. Some looked bewildered, unsure how to process this audacious reinterpretation of a sacred tune. Others, particularly those who understood the deeper context of the anti-war movement, nodded in silent recognition, tears welling in their eyes. They heard the bombs, they felt the rockets, they understood the message. This wasn't an act of disrespect, it was an act of profound, artistic protest. It was the anthem stripped bare, revealing the raw, bleeding heart of a nation in turmoil. He moved seamlessly from the sounds of war to moments of almost mournful beauty, the melody briefly re-emerging, fragile and vulnerable, before being swallowed again by a wave of feedback. It was a dialogue between hope and despair, between the idealized vision of America and its harsh, often brutal reality. He bent notes until they cried. He coaxed harmonies that shimmered with a strange, unsettling beauty, and he unleashed torrents of sound that seemed to defy the very laws of physics. The performance was a masterclass in improvisation, a testament to Jimi's unparalleled command of his instrument and his fearless artistic vision. He wasn't just playing a song. He was having a conversation with his guitar, with the audience, and with the very soul of America. He stretched the boundaries of what a guitar could do, transforming it into a voice, a siren, a weapon, a lament. As the final, sustained, feedback-drenched note hung in the air, slowly decaying into silence, a profound hush fell over the field. It wasn't the kind of silence that follows a polite applause. It was the silence of shock, of contemplation, of a collective realization that something truly extraordinary had just transpired. Jimi stood there for a moment, his head bowed slightly, his white Stratocaster still humming with residual energy. He had poured every ounce of his being into those few minutes, and the exhaustion was palpable. Then, a smattering of applause began, growing quickly into a roar. It wasn't just for the music, it was for the courage, for the artistry, for the sheer audacity of it all. He had taken a symbol of national pride and transformed it into a powerful, undeniable statement about the state of the nation. He had played the anthem like never before, and in doing so, he had etched his name, and that moment, into the annals of history. If you're finding yourself immersed in this incredible journey through classic rock history and appreciating the depth of these stories, please take a moment to like this video. Your support helps us continue to bring these legendary tales to life. The immediate aftermath of Jimi Hendrix's Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions and interpretations. On the muddy fields of Bethel, the remaining crowd, though small, erupted in a mixture of awe and bewildered applause. Many felt they had witnessed something profoundly significant, a moment that transcended mere entertainment. Others, perhaps less attuned to the counterculture's pulse, were simply stunned, unsure of what to make of the sonic assault they had just experienced. News of the performance spread like wildfire, amplified by the documentary film Woodstock, which captured the moment in all its raw, visceral glory. Suddenly, Jimi Hendrix wasn't just a guitar god. He was a political lightning rod. The controversy was immediate and intense. Conservative critics and traditionalists were outraged. They saw the performance as a sacrilegious desecration of a national symbol, an act of unpatriotic defiance. Talk show hosts debated it, newspaper editorials condemned it, and many veterans groups expressed their disgust. To them, Jimi had spat on the flag, mocked the troops, and undermined the very fabric of American identity. They interpreted the feedback and distortion as a deliberate act of disrespect, a sneering dismissal of everything the anthem stood for. Conversely, for the counterculture, the anti-war movement, and a generation disillusioned with the status quo, Jimi's anthem was a powerful, eloquent statement. It was a musical protest, a sonic representation of the bombs falling in Vietnam, the cries for civil rights, and the disillusionment with a government perceived as corrupt and out of touch. They understood the wails and shrieks of his guitar not as random noise, but as the sound of a nation in pain, a cry for peace and justice. It was a moment of profound artistic expression that perfectly encapsulated the zeitgeist of 1969. Jimi himself, in the days and weeks that followed, offered his own nuanced perspective. He consistently denied any intention to disrespect the flag or the country. In interviews, he explained his interpretation. "I thought it was beautiful," he said. "I didn't think it was a disrespectful thing. I thought it was a beautiful thing." He clarified that the bombs bursting in air were simply what he heard in the music, a reflection of the reality of the war. "We're all Americans," he stated. "It was like, go America. We play it the way the air is felt, at the time." He saw it as a modern interpretation, a way to make the anthem relevant to the current generation, to infuse it with the emotions of the moment. He wasn't trying to destroy the anthem. He was trying to redefine it, to make it speak to the truth of his time. The performance cemented Jimi's status not just as a musical innovator, but as a cultural icon. It elevated him beyond the realm of mere entertainment, positioning him as a voice of his generation, an artist capable of profound social commentary through his instrument. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated artistic freedom, a testament to the power of music to reflect, challenge, and shape society. However, the relentless pressure and scrutiny took their toll. Jimi was already struggling with the demands of fame, the constant touring, and the expectations placed upon him. The controversy surrounding the anthem only added to this burden. He was a sensitive soul, often misunderstood, and the vitriol directed at him was deeply unsettling. He yearned for artistic freedom, for the space to create without the constant political interpretations of his work. The Woodstock performance, while iconic, also marked a turning point in his career. It was a peak, a moment of unparalleled artistic triumph, but it also foreshadowed the increasing weight of his public persona. He would continue to push musical boundaries, but the shadow of that Monday morning in August would follow him, a constant reminder of the power and peril of his art. The exhaustion, both physical and emotional, was a constant companion, a silent testament to the intensity of his creative output and the turbulent world he inhabited. As we delve deeper into the lives and legacies of these musical giants, we often uncover fascinating details and untold stories. To ensure you don't miss out on exclusive behind-the-scenes content, in-depth analyses, and early access to our latest productions, make sure to subscribe to our channel now. Join our community of music enthusiasts and keep the history alive. Decades have passed since that humid Monday morning at Woodstock, but Jimi Hendrix's rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner remains as potent and provocative as ever. It is not merely a song. It is a cultural artifact, a sonic time capsule that perfectly encapsulates the tumultuous spirit of 1969. Its enduring power lies in its ambiguity, its ability to be simultaneously a patriotic hymn and a searing protest, a testament to Jimi's genius in crafting a piece of music that spoke to the fractured soul of a nation. Today, the performance is almost universally recognized as a masterpiece of artistic expression. Music critics, historians, and fans alike laud it as one of the most significant moments in rock and roll history, a pivotal point where music transcended entertainment and became a profound statement. It is studied in music schools, analyzed in cultural commentaries, and revered as a benchmark for improvisational guitar playing. The sheer audacity, the technical brilliance, and the emotional depth of the performance continue to inspire awe and wonder. Beyond its musical prowess, the Woodstock Anthem stands as a powerful political statement. It offered a voice to the voiceless, a sonic representation of the anti-war sentiment that was sweeping the nation. Jimi, a black man playing the national anthem in such a radical way, also added layers of racial commentary, subtly challenging the traditional notions of patriotism and who gets to define it. He took a symbol of national unity and, through his art, exposed its inherent contradictions and the deep divisions within American society. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated artistic freedom, a testament to the power of music to reflect, challenge, and shape society. Jimi Hendrix's place in music history extends far beyond this one iconic performance, though it remains a cornerstone of his legacy. He redefined the electric guitar, pushing its capabilities to unimaginable limits. He pioneered new sounds, new techniques, and new approaches to songwriting and performance. His influence can be heard in countless guitarists across genres, from rock and blues to funk and jazz. He was a visionary, a psychedelic shaman who conjured entire worlds with 6 strings and an amplifier. The themes woven into that performance, artistic expression, cultural significance, and personal struggle, were central to Jimi's tragically brief life. He was a restless artist, constantly seeking new forms of expression, never content to rest on his laurels. His music was deeply intertwined with the cultural currents of his time, reflecting the hopes, fears, and aspirations of a generation. Yet, beneath the dazzling showmanship and the groundbreaking artistry, lay a sensitive, often troubled soul, grappling with the pressures of fame, the weight of expectation, and the constant search for meaning. His death in September 1970, just a little over a year after Woodstock, sent shockwaves through the music world. He was only 27, another brilliant light extinguished too soon. The world was robbed of countless more innovations, more sonic explorations, more profound artistic statements. But the legacy he left behind, particularly that unforgettable morning at Woodstock, continues to resonate. The Star-Spangled Banner at Woodstock wasn't just a song, it was a moment of truth. It was Jimi Hendrix, guitar in hand, standing on a muddy stage, looking out at a generation yearning for change, and giving them a sound that articulated their deepest feelings. It was a moment when music became prophecy, when an artist dared to hold a mirror up to his nation, and in doing so, created something timeless, something that continues to challenge, inspire, and provoke. It was the night Jimi Hendrix played the national anthem like never before, and in doing so, he changed how we heard it, and perhaps how we heard ourselves. As we conclude this deep dive into one of music's most legendary moments, we hope you've gained a new appreciation for the artistry and impact of Jimi Hendrix. If you enjoyed this journey, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Your engagement helps us continue to explore the rich tapestry of music history and share these incredible stories with a wider audience. Thank you for watching.